Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
What a wonderful day!
And it is a lovely day indeed. I just got back from watching Furiosa, and with Furiosa, we are following a prequel set before Mad Max Fury Road, giving us a look at the origin story of Furiosa herself and everything she went through that turned her into the road warrior we see years later. That's all. Pretty much. Any spoilers to you guys? This will be a spoiler-free review. Let's talk some Mad Max. To me, it's almost crazy to think the last Mad Max movie is almost 10 years old. Fury Road will turn that next year, but that movie was still one of the best surprises of 2015. I was never like the biggest Mad Max fan, but a post-apocalyptic world set around these like crazy cars was always interesting to me. And yeah, Fury Road ended up being one of my favorite movies of that year. So now when we got the announcement that they would be doing a prequel focusing on Furiosa, I gotta admit, it's not really what I would have wanted. I love what Charlize Theron did, and her character's Furiosa was a real standout in that movie, but I'm like, I'd like to go forward in the universe. I want to explore this more. Sometimes I feel like a prequel is only held back by where it needs to end up to get to its sequel, and those are limitations just put on a film that sometimes can't be overlooked. But you know what? I'm happy to report Furiosa is one of those rare breeds that not only meets the quality of its predecessor, but kind of changes my whole mind on Fury Road. Let me dive into the good, and I will eventually dive into the one major flaw this movie has. So starting off, huge hats off to George Miller. Almost 10 years later, and this man is still crazy and wild in what he puts on screen. The action scenes in here are just as inventive, fun, and long as they were in Fury Road. They're accompanied even with a couple of surprises and additions that I wasn't expecting. Like, I remember my mind being blown when I saw dudes on poles swinging from car to car. Yet George Miller adds even more interesting mechanics and new gadgets within what these people use to fight each other while they're on cars. With Furiosa also technically being like the earliest movie within the Mad Max universe, I'm willing to say this movie is very friendly to newcomers of Mad Max. Because while this movie is very focused on setting up the origin and upbringing of Furiosa, it does a really good job of just further expanding out the Mad Max world, giving you an idea of the landscape, the tribes, the people that inhabit it, and what they value and what they're willing to do to get that. Speaking on the cast a little bit, Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic as Furiosa. You might have seen articles say she isn't given a lot of lines. I think she has like a total of 35 lines throughout the entire movie. And that did surprise some people, but then not so much when you actually see the movie. The film takes a lot of time setting up young Furiosa. Anya Taylor-Joy actually doesn't even show up till like about halfway in this movie. I was honestly kind of surprised with the amount of young child Furiosa we got, but it only really made the story that much more impactful. But when Anya is, of course, on screen, she's great. Completely pulling off that Charlize Theron energy. She was just a joy to watch on screen, no pun intended. But to be completely honest with you guys, Chris Hemsworth was like the standout in here. The man is one maniacal crazy beast. He's in here playing a character known as Dr. Dementis, and throughout the course of the movie, he basically becomes the main antagonist for Furiosa. And just every second of Chris Hemsworth in this role, eating it up from his accent, his mannerisms, the fun he's having on screen, wow, was it awesome. I'm honestly tempted to say this is probably his best performance that he's given in a movie. He's a great freaking villain, has good comedic timing, but at the same time is also pretty messed up. Sometimes I forget these Mad Max movies are rated R. They never lean too much into the brutality or gore of what happens to them, but a couple of times in here, I was kind of shocked at the things I was seeing. So yeah, the performances are stellar, but overall, Furiosa is truly carried by its like epic story. This This is like a grand tale. It's a very different approach than what Fury Road did, and I don't mean that as a diss. With Fury Road, you almost just enter the Mad Max world. There's not really any explaining, anything going on. You just dive in straight into a story where Mad Max got caught up in, and you follow that through to the end. It's one just giant roller coaster ride. With Fury Road, it's the opposite. This is not just like a self-contained couple of days story. This story spans, I believe they said, over 12 years of Furiosa's life, and it is a tragic, sad story. It does so much to enrich the character Charlize Theron portrayed in Fury Road that it honestly completely changes the way I will watch Mad Max Fury Road. I had a lot of you guys asking me once you found out I saw the movie, was like, oh, Chris, should I go back and watch all the old Mad Max movies? Do I need to watch Fury Road to be ready for this one? And while sometimes, even though you're going into a prequel, you could say, you know, you'd probably appreciate this prequel more if you watch Fury Road or all those other things, I'm willing to tell you, don't. If you're gonna watch any Mad Max movie first, Furiosa is a great start in. In fact, I'm gonna be a little jealous at the people who are gonna be able to see Furiosa first and then go into Fury Road for the first time, because you're gonna have a completely different viewing experience than what I went through. Because while, of course, Tom Hardy's Mad Max is a large character in that world, and I do realize these films are called a Mad Max saga, Furiosa honestly does so much for the character that by the time I get to Fury Road, I'm no longer seeing that at all as a Mad Max movie. That is a Furiosa film, and in a weird way, the film gets even better for me from this prequel, and I think that's what a prequel should do. It should just make the stories you've already seen feel richer, or look at them at a different way. The minute this movie was over, I was just itching to run home and put on Fury Road, because you could honestly say these two movies are just like one gigantic 4 to 5 hour film. Very happy they were able to pull this off. Now, with all that said, I do want to go into some negatives with the movie, because of course it's not perfect. Starting off here, like I said, this movie is one epic tale, spans so much time in Furiosa's life, and with that there is a lot of story thrown at your face. This is a 2 hour and 30-minute movie, and while I'm not gonna say the movie's like long or you feel the runtime pacing's off, no, it just more towards the end of the movie, you can feel the movie rushing through some key points just to kind of get to the end. I feel like it's pretty obvious because the movie knows it has Fury Road to kind of wrap up other story details that this movie is setting up. You don't get that ultimate closure through this movie. And you really very much feel that towards the end when there's like big things that are happening you would think would be a large part of the story, just kind of get rushed through. I won't go into much detail, but like the 40-day war. That's one thing. But honestly, the biggest negative I have for Furiosa, and it's really just become a problem for most modern day blockbusters nowadays, is the effects. I love George Miller, visionary, has good looks. This movie does not look as good as Mad Max Fury Road. When Mad Max Fury Road came out, it was during that period, I think like between 2012 to like 2015, 16, where the effects in movies had just peaked. Every big blockbuster that came out around that time had VFX that still hold up to this day and in fact look better than a lot of modern blockbusters. But in recent years, we've been hearing a lot of stories where VFX artists are abused or they're not given enough time to make the movie look good. They're put on this giant crunch, and you can very much feel the film suffer from that. There's so many moments where the CG, green screens, or volume, whatever they use for the fake backdrops, just stick out like sore thumbs. This does not have the same beautiful look that Fury Road had. And I know people are going to throw at me, Chris, you know Fury Road had CGI. What are you talking? I know it had CGI. And so I just don't know how some people can look at Fury Road and then Furiosa and really say those are the same visual effects, same techniques. Something has changed in the last 10 years, and it's kind of sad. But at the end of the day, at least it's consistent. It keeps this stylized look all throughout, and I think you just eventually get used to it as the movie continues on. But even with that, it wasn't a deal breaker. I still love this movie. I thought it was great. I just wish the look of it could feel a little bit more like Fury Road. So for the action in Fury Road, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I love the action sequences that go on in here. It's a mixture of practical and CG effects. While the CG stuff sticks out a little bit more than it did last time, it is still heart-pounding, thrilling, and the added new elements made it really fun. Comedy in the movie, I'm going to give it 3 stars. A lot of that will come through Chris Hemsworth's character. He was just chewing up the scenery. He's a real maniacal, crazy villain and had me giggling a lot. Drama in the film, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I thought this was a really great story. Set up such a tragic backstory for Furiosa, but also the way it was able to expand the Mad Max universe and completely alter the way I see Fury Road, I think is a big win. Horror in the film, I'll give 2 stars to. It is a rated R film. There's some grotesque things that happen, particularly to Chris Hemsworth's nipples, but that's really about it. And suspense movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Some of the suspense is lost because you know Furiosa has to make it out of this journey to go into Fury Road, but there's other details within the story that definitely keep you engaged. Casual moviegoers, I'm gonna give this an A-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it a B+. For Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, I think it's definitely worth adding to your collection at home.
That's a keeper. Yes.
Again, that's just my opinion on the movie, guys. I would love it now if they just make this a whole Furiosa trilogy and that's what the next movie is about. It's really gotten to the point where if we don't see Mad Max again, it's just another Furiosa movie. I think I'd be okay with it. But let me know your guys' opinion on the movie, what you thought about it, what you like, what you didn't like. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.